So, I am Sam, and this is Adam, and this is this is episode 2 of the post-millennial Metal Guide podcast. Woo! And we are discussing the brand spanking new Deftones album, Ohms.
So. Came out this past Friday on September 25th on Reprise Records.
And it is immensely solid, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
First things first, we're going to talk about what we've been listening to this week, because it was sort of a big week as far as metal releases, and I don't know, there's just been a lot of good stuff, to say the least.
Absolutely.
And one of those good albums that isn't actually good is the new Idols record, Ultra Mono.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's about it.
It's such a light 6, it's crazy.
Just, you're listening to some of the songs, you're like, these lyrics are so cringe. Like, the beat is so bad, because it's just, it's like the same exact thing for the entire 3-minute song or whatever.
Yeah, it just feels like, they're pretty... Like, I guess Idol's sound was never super innovative, but this album just feels neutered, for lack of a better term. Every song is, like, under 3.5 minutes. It's all in 4/4. It's all based around guitar and bass riffs. Mm. All the lyrics just, they don't really delve any deeper in a lot of the issues that Idols has sort of been known to tackle with a more nuanced lens. It's just like, leftist virtue signaling for the entire album.
Yeah, it's punk being punk because punk.
And that's never a reason to be
no.
punk.
That being...
And I
think there are good songs on this album. I do.
Don't get me wrong. I think this album will be really fun live.
That's not a good thing, Sam. You can't say that.
Hey, it's punk.
Yeah.
But oh my, yeah. No, I mean there are some really solid moments on this album. I really like War. I really like Grounds, Anxiety, and they're slappers, but at the end of the day, it's nothing really beats the highs from their previous records.
And there's no, at least for me, there's no Rottweiler, there's no big finish, there's no big climax really. Like what you would think is the climax is a hymn, and that is an anti-climax.
It's like 5 minutes of nothing.
If I've ever heard it, which sucks.
And it's disappointing because, like, in the previous 2 Idols albums, they've shown, real mature songwriting sensibilities. They've shown the way they can build a really cool post-punk song and incorporate all these desperate elements with really hard-hitting lyrics and good impassioned performances. And this album just has none of that.
0.
So, it's like a middling 6.
Are you still going to listen throughout the year?
To the album? Yeah. I've listened to this album 4 times, and I can honestly say I have almost no desire to check it out again.
Fair enough. I don't know, because I really like War, and I really like Grounds, and I think that both of those tracks do an excellent job being Idol songs, especially with the progression that the group has taken.
Yeah, it's honestly a lot more noise rock influence, and I love that.
And, yeah, I don't know, it's just, I don't want to listen to half the tracks in this album. It just feels tedious.
I think Ne touche pas moi is like actually the cringiest mainstream music moment of the year.
It's
so bad.
That's big. Of the year? There's got to be something.
Well, I guess we live in a nice underground bubble that doesn't really listen to too many explicitly bad albums.
True.
So when Idols releases something like that, it's going to stick out in my mind.
So Mono, Light 6. Ultra Mono. Light 6. And, like, album cover that doesn't really fit the tone, I don't think. Maybe?
Yeah, Brutalism has a really awesome album cover, and so does Joy as an Act of Resistance.
This is just guy hit in head with bouncy ball. Like, I
don't get it.
I don't get it either.
So that's our take. Any other albums you want to talk about?
Of course. We have so many. I've still been ripping that new Fond Limbs over and over. It's awesome. Go check it out. I've also been listening to the new Ocean album, Ocean Collective, that came out on Friday. Phanerozoic 2, which we met.
You mean perfectly adequate progressive sludge metal?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know, if you're a big fan of, like, Cult of Luna, or even, like, Kinda Haken, and that sort of style of prog, if you threw those guys together in a nice blender, that's what The Ocean would be, and if you really like The Ocean, you'll really like this album. But for me, it's a little boring. And the highs are high, but the middles are very middle. Like, there's a 13-minute song. The first 2 songs take up half the album's runtime. It's an 8-minute song and a 13-minute song, which are both great, right? And then the other 5 or whatever songs are all 4 minutes, and I'm like, okay. So I don't know. If you like The Ocean, you're already listening to this album, so yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty beloved in the prog community already.
So there you go. Yeah. What about you? Anything else?
Yeah, I have a few non-metal albums I'd like to touch upon. So the Microphones released. It Was Hut, We Stayed in the Water 20 years ago last Friday, and that's the album that came out right before The Glow Part 2. Check out my article on that if you haven't already.
We'll put it in the description.
I really honestly think that this album adds so much necessary context that makes the Glow Part 2 work so much better.
Okay.
Because this album, I think it's Phil's second major label release for the Microphones. And it's so quintessentially early Phil Everum, but at the same time, there's like this really pervasive sense of like childhood happiness.
Sure.
And it's really solid. Like, I honestly think on my initial few listens, I've enjoyed this more than The Glow.
Wow.
Just because it has this like, it has this very like ignorance is bliss sort of mindset.
Okay.
And it's produced with the same ear for really cool 2-bar phrases that Phil has. It has the noise influence, it has the Red House Painters influence, and it's immensely solid. And The Glow, the song The Glow, the 11-minute centerpiece of the album, it's really awesome. It's amazing. It's really solid. It reminds me actually of On Avery Island by Neutral Milk Hotel more so than anything else. I will say though, it's sort of bizarre hearing Phil Everum just so blatantly talk about sex. I think like one of the lyrics on The Glow at the climax, he says, "I asked if I could come inside, and you let me in." And that's a little blatant for my tastes, and the album has a lot of those moments. Okay. But at the end of the day, it really does show like the highs of the relationship that would sort of be the focal point of The Glow Part 2. And it's really solid. I'd highly recommend it. And I'm kind of upset that I didn't listen to this before The Glow Part 2, because it feels so necessary in that album story.
Okay. Base take. Yeah.
And to nice segue, also non-metal is I've been spinning Tweez by Slint a few more times. I can see you've also been listening to that album.
I don't know why, but one day I was like, you know what? It's a Tweez type of day. And
I'm feeling Tweez.
And we just... it's so interesting going back to that album every single time, because it's so weird. It's so weird.
It really is.
And there's just...
Steve,
yes,
are these headphones on?
It's only coming out of one side. Nah, it's just like, it's so much different. Like, you can hear the influence that would pass on to the band's eponymous Spiderland, however many years later. But it's still really out there and weird. Because half the songs...
Tweez has a pretty...
half the songs have just like a build to almost nowhere. But, like, they're so intriguing that you're gonna listen all the way through.
Oh, totally. And it really is filled with all these kids who are just, like, bored and they're in, like, the middle of nowhere U.S. doing weird shit that they could do because they were recording a record. And it's awesome. It really has a nice, like, youthful energy.
Yeah, I agree.
The way they recorded a lot of the vocals on this album, funnily enough, was with a microphone swinging back and forth in the room, and they just shout into it to get this weird panning effect, and it's so cool.
That doesn't
surprise
me.
Is pretty good.
I mean, Slint, I don't know. I don't feel like enough people know about Slint, and they should.
Oh, no, come on. Okay. Anyone who knows music knows
but you know how many people have actually listened to, like, Spiderland? I have a good friend who I talk to music about with, who is a proclaimed RYM head and Redditor, and he had not heard Spiderland before I showed it to him. And maybe that's a personal fault, but like, at the same time, like, I feel like enough people don't know.
I really do think it's like the internet age audience doesn't really get into bands like Slint, because Slint are your favorite band's favorite band. They're not, they're not an up-and-coming metalcore band's favorite band.
You're absolutely right.
Because they really haven't been promoted for our generation whatsoever, and unless you're browsing RYM or Mew or any of those internet forums, you're not going to hear about them.
I will succeed. I will secede to that. But yeah, Tweez, very good. It's mathy. It's noisy. It's something. I don't even.
It's also produced by Steve Albini.
Yeah,
so.
It's an album to experience. That is all I will say, because it makes you. It puts you in such a weird mood. But yes.
Okay. We got to talk about the new Uada album.
Okay, so I didn't have this on my list. I've only listened to it twice. I'm not a fan.
I think it's, like, good. I don't know if it's
great. Think it's, like, a light 6. I don't...
I think it's a light 7.
I was listening to it the other day, and I was like, this just seems like every drum part is the same, of just, like, an open hi-hat or an open crash, just sort of, like, echoing with the occasion.
It's black metal, though.
But it's not... I mean... I liked Cult of a Dying Sun that came out in 2018 a lot more than I like this one. Maybe I need to re-listen to them back to back. But this form of melodic black metal I am not a fan of.
I kind of understand it. I mean, I think it's pretty good for what it is. The one, like, moment that really gets me is the monologue slam poetry at the end of No Place Here. And I was like, okay, what the heck is this dude talking about? Because, when you're listening to metal, lyrics don't matter.
Nope.
But holy shit, these are bad lyrics.
Yeah, they're not good at all.
It's like the weird, edgy brand of enlightened centrism, where he's like, both sides suck. And it feels so contrived. It feels so contrived.
It's kind of extra. I don't want that in my metal.
Not in my metal.
I know that's awful, but I feel like the album needs to be a little bit more impactful for me to truly say that, and I was not positively affected by this album. Not to say it was negatively either, but it just didn't do it for me.
I mean, I think it's well crafted enough. It just feels like a little bit tired, I guess.
Yeah, it does feel tired. It feels very, not give uppy, but phoned in. Extremely phoned in.
I mean, I think it's sort of odd to see a band like Uada release an album every 2 years on the dot. Because you look at, every other modern metal bands in the underground, and it'll be like, very spontaneous. 7 years between full lengths? Yeah. And then some bands have like 1 month between full lengths. And to see Uada just release on the dot every 2 years, it's sort of an interesting phenomenon. Yeah. Anywho, last album I want to talk about is Death's Leprosy, because it's been my go-to guitar practice album for the past week, and wow, I feel like such a pleb and uninformed when it comes to death metal in particular, because it's so good, and I feel sort of bad, having listened to metal for however long, that I never really appreciated Death's pretty great discography.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am in the same boat as you, where I'm really not that familiar with Death, and I absolutely should be, but I just haven't taken the time to educate myself. I think I've listened through Symbolic once or twice, but that's it. And that shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, it really shouldn't.
So, I don't know. I enjoy it, but
to make a long story short, it's so phenomenal. It's so riffy. All the songs build masterfully. They have kick-ass moments, and I'm a huge fan. And I feel sort of bad that I've been listening to metal for this long and haven't given Death or a lot of their peers the time of day.
Well, at least you're getting it now.
Yeah, right. But holy heck, the riffs are so fun. I've been just playing the chorus of Leprosy in my head for the past few
There you
days.
go.
It's really awesome. Any final albums you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I have a few that I would like to touch up on. The Prescription album that I was talking about last week. I don't remember the name of the album. I'm going to look it up while I'm trying to talk about it. But it's some pretty, I guess, standard black and death metal with a bit of doom influence. But I will say it's got some really intense moments of just sort of chaotic, noisy fury that I really, really like. Definitely check it out. I mean, it's a good album for what it's worth. I don't know if it's spectacular yet, but definitely good. So check that one out. I also, after our conversation on our last topic last week, I re-listened to the Neptunian Maximalism album a few times, twice.
That album is awesome.
Yeah, it deserves all the credit it's getting, but it is. I can totally understand why I can't listen to that album every day.
Yeah, it's more of an experience than anything else, and it's so bizarre, even for avant-garde metal fans. It's so out there.
It's very jazzy, very tribal, very cool, but very, very interesting. And then finally, there's an album by a band called Panzerfaust, who are from Canada, I believe. They're a Canadian black metal band.
They're called Panzerfaust, and they're from Canada.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I know. Their newest album, Sons of Perdition, Chapter 2, Render Unto Eden. I know, you're cringing already. It came out in early August, I believe. And I've been playing it on my radio show a lot. But I'd listened to it a few times and I was like, okay, this is good, but I'm not super impressed. But I listened to it again, and the second track, which is explicit, and it's the most popular track, so I can't play it on the radio. But I re-listened to that song, and I'm like, holy shit, this might be the best black metal song of the year without question. And so I re-listened to the album, and I was like, holy shit, the last song in this album also might be one of the best black metal songs of the year. And so I listened to the whole thing, and I'm like, well, holy shit, this might be one of the best black metal albums of the year.
I have to actually check it out,
then. It's Migwa-esque, but also, I mean, what isn't Migwa-esque at this point?
Yeah, honestly.
It's Migwa-esque, but it also sort of has, you can definitely tell it's American black metal. Or you
mean Canadian?
Well,
black metal?
North American black metal should be, I guess, the correct term. You can tell that, it's westernized, I suppose. But definitely very, very good.
Looking at the band's Metalum page, all the members have really edgy pseudonyms.
you know it's good.
And on that note, I think we can move to our discussion of Album of the Year.
All right, I don't know if I'd go that far.
No, I don't agree with that either. But the new Deftones album, Ohms.
Yep.
So, Ohms came out on Friday, I think, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And in one sentence, it's Deftones done well.
Yeah, it's good Deftones.
But I'm sure we can definitely go a lot deeper. But this seems to be sort of the consensus in the wider music community that it's just a really solid album by a band that only releases solid albums. And I do think this is definitely better than Gore. I think it's definitely better than their weaker efforts, and I think with time it'll supplant Koi no Yokan and Diamond Eyes as my favorite album of theirs. but as of now, like 7 or so listens in, I think it's pretty solid, and it's definitely in the top half of their discography, but I don't know if it's their best.
I'm in basically the same camp. I think that it already has surpassed Koi no Yukon for me.
Ooh.
I personally have a boner for Diamond Eyes. Always, forever.
Diamond.
Like, there's just...
It's so weird looking at the modern metal community, because it seems like everyone that got into metal past the year 2010 just loves Diamond Eyes unequivocally.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, you've seen The Butcher, Rocket Seeds. Like, all those tracks are just bangers. Even if they're, like, not, like, good Deftones tracks, like, it's just good music, I think.
I totally understand. I mean, Diamond Eyes is a phenomenal album. I really do think... I think we both listened to the Deftones albums we were less familiar with for this discussion, and oh my god, Deftones have a sound.
Yeah, they have a sound, for sure.
And I mean, you can spend time debating the nuances of that particular sound, but basically from White Pony onwards, their albums are gonna be presenting more or less a very similar artistic.
Like, there were some tracks on their self-titled that I didn't know that the song had changed, and that's bad, but like, you know, that's just the truth.
We could listen to 3 hours of Imwald or whatever and be like, huh, this is nice and interesting, but the second we hear 2 Deftones songs, we're like, oh wow, chorus is a little contrived on this one.
I mean, it's all with love though, because this band is really great, and I think that most of the internet world and music world in general just already knows that.
Yeah, I mean, find anyone who's into just the very, very wide world of modern rock and try to find someone that actually dislikes the Deftones.
You won't.
It's impossible. And you look at all these publications, and regardless of what they cover, whether it's like modern indie, metal, rock, just the music world larger, and every single one of them loves Deftones. And that's no coincidence.
No, definitely not. I mean, like, you have to be doing something really, really right to be in that position where you are loved by so many different avenues of, the industry.
Yeah, and I think the tag that always gets applied to them is the best nu metal band that were never nu metal. And I mean, that's probably right. I listened to Adrenaline earlier today, and wow, that album hasn't aged well, but at the same time, it's not bad, and you can still definitely hear their more mature sound.
I would even go so far to say that re-listening to Adrenaline earlier today as well, I enjoy that album a lot.
Yeah, it's solid. Like, it feels really emotional in a way that a lot of the more commercial nu metal never really did. I think Chino's voice floats beautifully.
I mean, I think Chino's really just one of the best vocalists in modern music, arguably.
I wouldn't say music, but he's pretty great.
I don't know. I mean, like he has the ability to just I don't want to be too vulgar, but he has a very erotic way that he sings, but also a very frightening way.
Yeah, I totally feel that. He in all of his vocal performances, you get this really nice sense that not only could he sing you to sleep, but he could also rip your head off, and that's a powerful thing. And it definitely toes the line between the genres that Deftones flirts with really nicely, because you got the more emotive side of things, like the definitive screamo influence, and the more hardcore side of things, and then they also toy with their Meshuggah polyrhythms and down-tuned guitars and very metal sensibilities. Yeah. And I think if we wanted to look at it academically, that's definitely why Deftones have been such a force for so long.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So want to talk about the album specifically?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think your favorite tracks on this wonderful project were?
So I think the standouts for me are the opener Genesis, the Spell of Mathematics, and I really love the closer too. Funnily enough, the 2 Signals.
Yeah.
I think if I was given a little more time, I'd love all the tracks equally, but I think the standout for me is the Spell of Mathematics. I really love that tune.
For me,
Also, the chorus for Ceremony is phenomenal.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. However, I think my favorite track on this album is this Link is Dead.
Really? The rap metal
I
track?
know. It's cringe, but like, I think that...
And this guy hates Limp
I
Bizkit.
think that song goes hard.
I agree. I think it's a better version of The Elite.
Yes. It's absolutely the better version of Elite.
Yeah, the riffs are sick. Chino's vocal delivery's sick.
They just know what they're doing, man.
They really do just know what they're doing. Because I've one of my favorite reviews of this album was from Stereogum, and they sort of they compare it to a sludge album more so than anything else because of its use of texture.
Yeah.
And I totally see that, because I think a big issue with some of Deftones' weaker songs from their later works is that it's a little too immediate. If that makes sense.
No, I totally agree.
Like, if you listen to Koi no Yokan, and the first time you hear that album, you're just like, oh man, this is the clean chorus, this is the bridge, this is the verse.
Yeah.
And it's very direct. And that's not a bad thing, but, you know, we prefer texture, we prefer atmospheric black metal. Right. And this album just has a very, it's been said a lot, but mature sensibility to it. It's not hammering you over the head with, oh, intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus. Even though that's the structure for every song, it feels just so much more natural.
I also just feel that this album has a lot more weight to it. All the guitars are produced way heavier, I think, and way more droning, which really gives it a shoegazy quality to me that I personally really enjoy. Because, like, you can kind of hear it with their sound. I mean, their riffs are kind of, like, already sort of hypnotic as they are. And then you throw on the reverb and, you know, the distortion, and it just becomes, like, purely, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, all the songs, funnily enough, when I was listening to this, reminded me of Load's album, or the Hum album. And it's funny, because those bands have inspired each other in cool ways. But, yeah, I mean, all this... I think what makes Deftones really potent is their ability to, like, mask metal riffs in these shoegazy and indie qualities. Because on one end you got the absolutely banging, genty, like, down-tuned metal guitars, but they're covered in, like, 4 layers, and 3 of those layers are synths or ethereal textures, and it coalesces into this wonderful soup that it showcases melody and heaviness, and they really walk that fine line well.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think that it's really... And this band's been around for so long. It's
25 years.
So foreign to have such a consistent output for such a long time.
It makes no sense.
It really
does. Because you look at Deftones' discography, and sure, there are albums that aren't as beloved as the others, but this band hasn't released anything that's worse than, like, a 7.
Yeah, ever. And they're still making music, like, happily. Like...
What?
Yeah, like, they're, you know, like, even, like, someone like Tool, who, you know, we both love, you know, I don't know if they were fully happy with Fear Inoculum. Just because, like, they're already working on new music.
Yeah, I gotcha. There's a certain sense of, like, they're coming out of the woodwork because they need to cash that check. And with Deftones, it's like, oh no, this band has just released an album every few years. They feel fully formed. They each feel like statements in their own right. And that's so... I can't think of another band in, like, modern music, period, that's done that. Except for, like, maybe Radiohead.
Maybe Radiohead, but even then, like, you know, you have Division on, like, The King of Limbs.
And I think Adrenaline's a better debut than Pablo Honey.
I would concur. So does Deftones have the most consistent discography in music, then? Are they the band?
I mean, I don't know. I think we'll definitely need some context, but there's a reason why they're so beloved, and there's a reason why they've only gained fans. Like, you look at a band like Korn or a band like Slipknot or even like Disturbed, and they had their clear peak, and since then they've been hemorrhaging fans and hemorrhaging listeners.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And Deftones, if anything, they've gained listeners, and I think it really speaks to their longevity, the novelty of their style, and their ability to incorporate new influences and evolve in a really consistent way. I think when we were getting into metal and when we got into Deftones, like however many years ago now, we were like, oh wow, this is cool, and then we've just listened to them since. And a lot of those bands that we initially got into metal with, you don't stick around because it feels like they have less to offer.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I totally remember, going into the record store and being like, oh wow, yeah, there's this new Gore album by this Deftones band that I like. White Pony, that's a good one. But yeah, it's crazy because thinking back, there is no real band that you can just reliably go back to at this point.
Yeah, and it's not like we're talking about like a string of 3 albums. We're talking about 9 albums released over 25 years.
That are all...
That's ridiculous.
It's stunning.
I think Cannibal Corpse has a pretty solid discography, but I've never listened to a Cannibal Corpse album. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that either.
I would like to talk about some moments in this album that I absolutely adore.
Go for it.
I think, like, I touched upon it earlier, but just really Deftones' ability to make these songs and these transitions sound so natural, it just feels unique. They're able to make these moments of pure beauty in what might seem like a pretty rote formula.
Yeah.
And I think one of those, the first track, Genesis, the bridge of that, it's so cool. It's so phenomenal. Interpolates the melody in a really nice way before leading to the final chorus. The chorus of Ceremony is sick. So awesome. And I think really every song on this album has one of those moments where it's just, holy shit, this is both beautiful and terrifying. It's very romantic in that sense. And I think it's been said a lot that this album's definitely more of a grower, and I totally agree with that.
I would
because it doesn't reveal all of its strengths immediately on first listen, but when you've gotten a few like listens in, you just start to notice all these really beautiful and subtle uses of songwriting techniques. It makes the whole thing pop.
I agree. I can totally see and match the "it's a grower," because when I first listened to this album, I can't lie, I was not that impressed. I was like, okay, these are cool Deftones songs. Like, I'm gonna listen to this album again, but for me, I didn't see a Be Quiet and Drive. I was like, there's no moment in this album that's just gonna make me like really appreciate it for what it is. But I don't know. As it has grown on me, I feel like that with time, I can definitely see some of the tracks on this album being my favorites. And the closer is really awesome. The opener is really awesome.
And that's how you make an album. You bookend it with its best tracks.
But even amongst the inner parts of the track, there are still like super great songs.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really don't. I don't think any track on this album is worse than Light 8, and that's pretty damn great. Because it makes the experience like really seamless. It flows nicely, and there are natural peaks and valleys when it comes to pacing. And like I think some of the best albums of all time, like we mentioned Slint earlier, Spiderland starts with its best track and ends with its best track.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a winning
formula,
to say the least. I'd like to mention or talk about the lyrics on this thing a little bit.
I haven't even gone into them, so good on you for going into them.
I'd highly recommend checking them out. I think an issue I have with some of Deftones' earlier stuff is just the super direct, like, I'm a teenager lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, Around the Fur and White Pony, awesome albums, but some moments just feel a little forced.
Yeah, I agree.
As someone who is, fairly young, some of them still feel really forced. Like, I love Passenger 6 song, but it's about car sex, okay? And it's very blatant. Or like, here's my new address, 664. Or I'm just thinking of all the White Pony songs, because that's the album I know the best. But there are some moments that you listen to them and you're like, okay, that's kind of dumb.
No, yeah.
And on this album, it sort of toes the line between very direct, like personal experiences and like incredibly lofty metaphors, and that's where I like my indie/metal lyrics to be. Like the song Urantia is based off of this bizarre pseudoscience. I don't want to say pseudoscience, but it's a new age religious text from the 50s that it's sort of like a combination of the Bible and the Quran.
Oh.
And also incorporates elements of sci-fi.
Interesting.
And I think the album has all these really nice themes of like, I guess religious subtext and growing out of nothing and like realizing your place in the universe. And don't get me wrong, it's metal. I think I said earlier, lyrics don't matter too much for me, but it's just nice to have those subtexts. So if you want to delve deeper and read a little between the lines, you can find something of substance there.
That's good. That's always, an extra layer of, hey, this is nice.
Yeah, it's great because I think certain Deftones songs and albums don't really.
Yeah,
do that.
I would agree.
And to see an album that does it's nice. Mm-hmm. Or even Ohms, which is fairly direct. It's like, we're surrounded by the debris of the past. It's too late to cause a change in the tides, so we slip into our hopeless sea of regrets as I stare. And like, that's not the most profound sentiment ever, but it's nice. It's broad. You can read it in a lot of ways, and it sounds cool.
Yeah, fair enough. So, do you have anything that you don't like about this album?
I do, and this is no fault against the band. I just think it's a little formulaic. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because Deftones have a sound, and they do the sound damn well. But there aren't too many moments on this album where I'm like, oh wow, I've never heard this done before.
Yeah, no, it's as we would say, samey. But I mean, if you like that sound, you're gonna have no issues.
I think one of the issue people had with Gore is because it's also pretty samey, except the highs are really obvious. Right. Except on this album, it's all pretty similarly great.
I would agree. It's very even.
But yeah, I mean, there are no moments where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe the Deftones would do this. And I think that's, for me, what prevents it from like going up to a 9.
Okay, that's fair.
Because it's executed great. It sounds great. I think this album really doesn't have too many flaws. It's the only thing is, like, this band have been doing it for 25 years, and it very much sounds like they've been doing it for 25 years. And sure, they have a mastery of their sound and their songcraft and whatnot, but at the same time, I'd like to hear them go a little bit further.
Sure.
I recognize that that's probably not going to happen, but it really doesn't need to happen, but I think that's my main criticism of the record. I think, though...
No, go for it.
Oh, I think, though, that if like you're a huge fan of Deftones and you just love everything they've done, and you're not really looking for them to rewrite the book, though, like, this album could easily be a 10.
Oh, yeah, this is a perfect slot into the Deftones catalog, and I don't think anyone can argue that.
Yeah, they execute the Deftones sound perfectly across 10 tracks. Like, what more could you want from a beloved band?
I wish we had gotten that with Tool.
Sorry, you were saying something, Adam?
I wish we had gotten that with Tool.
Yes, I wish we had gotten that with Tool too. Read our review of that if you have.
Yes, also on the website. I was going to say, and I know I also cannot fault the band for this, but I do not like the talkbox screams. I don't like them.
Really? I love the talkbox screams.
Yeah, but his screams on basically anything, I think, probably... I don't know exactly when they shifted, but... Like, I get Chino's an old man now. Like, he's probably...
Yeah, dude, he's like 50.
Yeah, like, I get it. But, like, there is just something so visceral and raw about the stuff on Around the Fur and Adrenaline, and even on White Pony, that, like, really gets me going. It is the new metal edge. And while I think the talkbox...
Adam confirmed loves Limp Bizkit.
While the talkbox edge is good, I don't think it hits that emotional, sort of really intense stuff that I really dig about the early Deftones side of their sound.
No, I totally get that critique. I will say, though, to counter that, I think, all these songs sort of act as shoegaze compositions. I really think that the talk box helps the voice become just another instrument.
Oh, yeah.
And in some of the more hard-hitting moments, the talk box screams on, like, Genesis, I think they effectively do their job, and they still sound awesome. They're just, you're right, they're not as immediately hard-hitting as some of the other stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's right. But,
I will, however, say it. I'd like to see them do it live, and I imagine if they're doing it live, it'll probably be a little bit more hard.
Yeah, because Chino will do that stream. He will, I think. I hope. I haven't seen Deftones live.
I hope.
Please, someone who's seen Deftones live, comment and say whether he does the streams live.
Hey, well, we were going to see them live before COVID happened.
That is very true. And they've rescheduled that tour to next year, I think.
Hopefully that will be a thing.
I thought they already rescheduled it. I don't know.
No, they did. They rescheduled it to August of 2020.
Okay, all right.
Of course, it's an arena show, and that's unfortunate, but they are a huge band.
Yes. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a new Gojira album then, too.
Oh, gosh. Stop. I do want to shout out Deftones' keyboard/samplist on this album, Frank D'Agato. He's been part of their the band since 2000. Yeah, 2000, since White Pony. And he really shines here. It's sort of like the contortionist keyboardist.
Yes.
Nothing is super in your face, but it's just a really masterful use of texture. And I think every single song, if you pulled the keyboard out there, it would feel so empty and so
barren. It would be very, very hollow. Which is something that I feel like the Hum and Loathe albums sort of have the issue with.
Yeah, and it's really it just feels very natural, and like the samples and the keyboards and whatnot, they're serving the songs in very natural ways, and that's something you really don't see too often in modern stuff like this.
Totally, absolutely. So, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say? I mean, we've pretty much praised this album to no end.
I mean, there's a reason why so many outlets are calling it like the album of the year, because it's Deftones operating at their peak.
Now, what more could you want? Do you think that it's up there in album of the year contention?
I think to have that conversation, we'd have to discuss the maxims one uses to judge album of the year.
Very true.
Because I think if you're looking at it like, does this album achieve what it's trying to achieve, then 100% this album's up there. But I think if you're looking at it as like big artistic statements on the world at large that utilize their medium to the fullest, I don't know if it quite makes it there.
Right.
I think if I was a bigger Deftones fan, this would definitely be up there. But I mean, I like Deftones and I've listened to all their albums, but I've never been a huge lover of their stuff.
Well, so I guess what we have to say for the fans is, will it be on the top 40 of 2020 lists, Sam?
If we're going all the way up to 40, then of course.
Fair enough.
If we're going up to 10, maybe?
I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff this year.
Yeah, this year's been phenomenal, and I don't know if just now, it's tough. I really can't answer that question right now. I'd really need to think about it somewhere.
I'm in the same boat, because currently I don't even have it in my little ranking list. I don't even have it put anywhere. It's on the side.
But at the same time, it's probably the best mainstream metal album of the year.
Oh, without a doubt.
And that's mainstream metal's gotten shafted recently.
Yes, it does.
So to see a band that straddles the genre lines so well, and see them just so beloved and knock it out of the park. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's the competition? Code Orange?
That's not metal.
Okay, but in the metal underground, what's the competition? It's Code Orange. I think. I don't know who else.
Apparently Enslaved dropped a really good album.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I've literally never listened to an Enslaved album because I don't find it entertaining.
No, but I think that's a good point. I really oh, sorry. There's a new Corey Taylor album coming out. Will it be as good as this one? Hell no. That's actually impossible.
Yeah, that is impossible.
Yeah, but definitely the best mainstream metal album of the year, and I could definitely see it crawling onto our year-end list.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think though, if you have a Deftones tattoo and like they're your first band, like you're in a constant orgasmic bliss because it's such a great album. It's so solid.
Yes, it is.
It's also really fun, and that's something that I know a lot of metal struggles to be.
But yeah, it's such a sad boy and angry man genre.
And this album is both sad and angry, but manages to be consistently entertaining.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Strong
8. Strong 8. I agree. And a grower. Strong 8 and a grower.
Not a shower.
Yeah, not a shower. Grower, definitely. But okay. All right. Segment done.
All right, let's talk about
news.
The incredibly slow news.
Okay, well, actually, I have a lot of album announcement news. And if I may go first, I have a few things that we can tie back to Deftones.
All right.
So, I learned that the remix album of White Pony is coming out very soon.
I know, I saw that. Isn't it like an electronic remix?
It's an electronic remix album. It's celebrating the 20 years since White Pony has come out. And they're putting the finishing touches on it. And yeah, I think it'll be cool.
I mean, I'm sure it will be cool. I don't know if I'll listen to it every day, but
yeah, but it's interesting.
I guess I'm happy that it exists.
Yeah, fair enough. And then another Deftones related news piece. So I'm just going through the news, trying to find some news. There is a new band.
Oh, the Sumac, the Isis and Chino Marino project?
No, that needs to be said by you. This one is Stephen Carpenter and Sixth.
What?
Yes, okay. Stephen Carpenter and Sixth.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the project is called Slimvicto. And from what I can understand, it's Stephen Carpenter, Deftones guitarist, and the drummer and bassist of Sixth, basically playing like, I don't want to call it drum and bass gent, but it's kind of drum and bass gent. They put out
Is there music for this?
There is a song for it out. I will send it to you.
Okay, I'm intrigued. That's a very exciting collaboration.
And I gotta say, like, it's pretty good. From from the one listen that I did of it, it's pretty good. But yeah, that's my other Deftones based thing, and then just to wrap up, my other release radar sort of
Sumac.
Well, Sumac, but like this is news related though. Jezu, who, for those who may not know, is like one of the biggest drone metal projects past 2000, is putting out a new record November 13th. But that's all.
Yeah, there's been a lot of high profile announcements recently.
Yes. And then we'll go into what's coming up this week later, but I thought I would mention that there are new projects sprouting and yeah, things happening.
So you're not going to talk about Ozzy Osbourne's new album, huh?
That one came out like forever ago.
He just announced he's working on another one.
I did not see that, nor do I want to see that, especially since he said that this was going to be the last one.
Shh. On that note, I have a few news stories I'd like to talk about.
Go for it.
So there's of course I'm going on the widely acclaimed news sources Metal Sucks, Metal Injection, and Loudwire for my metal news.
Classic.
And Metal Injection actually had a cool article they did about how every band is just going to cancel their tours for this upcoming year.
Yep.
And it was a little depressing because they specifically referenced the booker behind the amazing Imperial Triumphant Abigail Williams Borkegard tour.
Stop! I forgot about that tour.
I know. Well, that tour was initially rescheduled to February,
right.
But the booker came out like this week and was like, yeah, obviously this isn't going to happen because of the state of the world. And on a more depressing note, like Metal Underground tours are just going to be unbelievably fucked for years to come. And he cited not just COVID restrictions being different in every state and every country, but also the fact that a lot of these venues that were hosting these smaller bands are just not in business anymore. Yeah. And if you want some nice, sad news that will make you reconsider live music for the next few years, I'd recommend checking that.
That's on what?
Oh, that's on Metal Injection.
That's on Metal Injection, okay.
Additionally, I just sort of want to touch upon the fact that a lot of high-profile hard rock and metal musicians are now doing endorsements of Biden.
Okay, true.
And I guess it's important to acknowledge that.
Sure.
It's sort of weird. It's sort of weird. I don't know exactly how to feel.
I think remaining bipartisan and
what do you mean remaining?
Just vote. Just vote.
Just vote and don't vote for Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so
that's about it.
It's. I think it's important to note that a lot of these artists are like Lars Ulrich, and so you gotta account for the dissonance between the average working class metal listener and a multimillionaire like Lars Ulrich. Yeah. But I thought I'd mention that. Then I have a few new song things I'd like to touch upon as well. Zeal and Ardor has dropped a few new songs for their upcoming
They
EP.
dropped an EP. Are they dropping or have dropped?
They're dropping it. They've released a few singles.
I've heard...
And spoiler alert, the singles suck. They're really not good.
I thought one of them was okay. I thought Vigil was okay.
Vigil was hard okay.
Yes.
But I'm sure... Like, me and Adam love Zeal and Ardor. I've seen them twice, actually, live. Great bands. Really cool, novel. Talk about important things, important issues, and whatnot. And this new album is in support of BLM and the unjust killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, as well as others. And I think that's a great cause. I think it needs to be talked about, especially in metal, which is a primarily white genre.
Yeah.
But, oh man, these songs are just
yeah, they are. Yeah, they're not great.
So that's always fun when you see an artist you love just release mediocre material.
Yes, it's classic.
And finally, Adam, I don't know how much trap metal you listen to.
I've heard the not Lithuanian. Where are they? Where are they from?
Oh, the well, when I say trap metal, I mean like the edgy brand of popular SoundCloud rap that has screams and metal influence.
Ah, yes. So not actually metal.
Well, it's called trap metal, and for a reason. I just want to say, like, the genre's biggest star, one of the genre's biggest star, Ghostmain, is releasing like a huge major label album in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And I think at the Metal Injection also pointed out that it's important to note that this might be the future of mainstream metal, and that like this guy's music video for the lead single already has like 2 million views in like a week. And those just aren't numbers you see on any other band ever in the genre.
Yeah.
And so it's important to note that while this might not necessarily be metal, that it appropriates the certain sounds of the genre and definitely the imagery of the genre and puts it in a nice like little package that people that are younger can enjoy. And I think it's cool at the very least. I don't know if I love it, but it's important to acknowledge that this might actually be what the future of mainstream metal is.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd recommend checking the song out. It's called Lazaretto. The video is so Marilyn Manson, so Slipknot-y. It's wild, but I like it. I could totally see myself having fun with it in a live setting.
Okay. Fair enough. Sam, the vocalist of Fear Factory quit. How do we feel?
Dude! I'm literally in tears right now.
Are we going to have a Fear Factory bit on this show? Because...
Oh, dude, holy shit. I actually listened to the most recent Fear Factory album this week.
Sorry.
Because I was like, I gotta understand what it sounds like, right?
Dude, it's... No.
It's so bad. It's like... It's so bad. It's the most tropey, quote-unquote... I just hate it. I can't bring myself to enjoy it. And it's hysterical, these legal issues.
Yep.
And you read this guy's quotes, and he's like, yeah, I was mistreated by everyone else in the band for years. Dino Casario is a greedy piece of shit. He just wants to use his likeness, whatever. And I just don't care.
They're gonna keep coming up, Sam.
Dude, we gotta cover what's new in Fear Factory news every single week. I think it's hysterical though that these guys, like, to a younger audience like us who don't really know their music, are just memes.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at like the older Fear Factory fans that like legitimately care about this and ask them how and why.
Maybe we need to find an interview and interview someone.
Dude, that's it. We're getting Dino on the show.
Dude, we can get Dino on the show. He probably needs to work.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical. Yeah. You mentioned upcoming releases.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, I forgot to mention. We here at PMMetalGuide, if you are a frequent reader of our content, you know that Doug Moore is literally our little baby that we will never ever taint with a bad review.
Doug Moore is our Jesus figure.
He is who we will idolize forever and ever. And he just announced a brand new project with members from Whoa. That's just an OSDM band. Out of nowhere, new album, November 29th, Glorious Depravities, Angels of Violence.
Well, it's more like brutal OSDM.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, it's brutal, it's really heavy, and it's really good.
Yeah, this is like a ridiculous all-star supergroup. Like, it's kind of crazy. And I was reading the little press release for these guys, and it's so, like, over the top, and looking at, like, OSDM, which we kind of think of as like a monkey genre in like an academic sense, and it's so funny.
But I mean, like,
it's gonna slap. It's gonna be immensely solid. I look forward to it. I listened to the single and I was like, "Is this real?"
Yeah,
it's just so solid.
Yeah. So that's another band that is existing now. So catch up on your Woe and your Puron and your Sepetus and your Weeping Sores. Just do it.
I feel like we could honestly get Doug on this podcast.
Who knows? Maybe with time. Maybe with time we may. But yeah.
Well,
Release radar.
Sumac album Friday.
Oh man, dude, I'm so excited.
Did you listen to the 20-minute long track they dropped?
No. Is it?
They dropped a 20-minute long track
today. Oh my god! Is that the self-titled? Yeah, it is. Or the title track.
Yeah, May You Be Held. It's 19 minutes and 53 seconds, dude.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I'm sure it's amazing.
Sumac, Aaron Turner can do no wrong.
I'm sure it's nothing short of absolutely bewildering.
I mean, I listened to the Iron Share today, and I was just floored. It's so solid.
It takes
so heavy.
It takes half that track for there to be a single vocal, and I'm still intrigued.
Yes, I mean, we got to do like a deep dive on Aaron Turner one of these days, because it is phenomenal that this man has just gotten heavier and more experimental as he's gotten older.
Yep.
Because that is not the norm.
No, it is not. So yeah, we got Sumac. We have, at least I know, there's a new Anal Nathrak album, or Nathrak album coming out as well.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Nathrak, not Nakrath. Nathrak, Anal Nathrak.
That's bizarre. Yeah, AMG gave it a 4, so that should be good. Actually, I think they gave it a 4.5.
Really? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, right. We got to check out the new Anal Nathrak album.
Everyone's hated death thrash band, 6 Feet Under. New album.
Oh my god.
New album.
Dude, this is their 19th album.
It's...
Why, Chris Barnes? Why?
Yeah, don't listen to 6 Feet Under. Do not support, please. Thank you. Also, I saw this the other day. New Bon Jovi album coming out on Friday.
What?
It's called 2020.
Who cares about Bon Jovi in fucking 2020?
Clearly he does, because he made an album about it.
Gosh. I feel there are definitely some like underground darlings we're just missing.
New Corey Taylor.
I'm sorry. How could we forget the pariah of the underground?
There's also a new Bulb Archive coming out on Friday.
What?
New Bulb Archive.
Oh, Bulb Archive.
Yeah, Bulb Archive.
I will say, as I've listened to all of them, and they just do not work as albums.
No, they don't.
But I guess that's the point.
Yeah, no, it's a compilation. I mean, it's cool. It's cool, Jen. Like that's it.
It's cool instrumental Jen. It's also cool seeing the songs that eventually made their way into Periphery.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Anything?
I don't think there's much else. Enslaved comes out.
Oh, that
comes out this week. Yeah.
This Friday?
This Friday, yeah. I don't think there.
Maybe I'll finally listen to
I don't
Enslaved.
think there's much else. I think it's kind of a lull week.
This week was absolutely stacked. So
well, yeah, no, like
sense.
September 25th was a rockin' day for music, so it makes sense. New Sufjan.
Apparently, it's good.
I've heard it.
New Machine Gun Kelly. What are we talking about?
I've heard it rated as an experience.
I mean, I listened to like half of the title track, and I was like, you know what? This isn't music for me.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
In conclusion, new Deftones is pretty
darn good. And yeah, we'll be seeing you, I guess, next Thursday on...
Is that when we're dropping these?
Yeah, that's when we dropped the first one.
Alright.
Might as well, Wednesday review, Thursday podcast.
Awesome. Well, I have been Sam.
And I'm Adam.
And this was the second episode of the PM Metal Guide podcast.
Bye.